And the big story that we are going to be discussing here at the urban debate comes in from Maharashtra. As far as the Sena versus the Sena war is concerned, the Supreme Court has refused to stay the Election Commission's decision to allot the Shiv Sena symbol and the party name to Eknath Shinde. At the same time, they have recorded a promise from the Shinde camp that the Uddhav Thackeray's lawmakers will not face a disqualification. So there seems to be a ray of hope for the Uddhav camp then. But remember, they had filed a petition to stay the Election Commission's order from last week. The Uddhav camp argued in the court that the poll body only relied on the legislative majority of Eknath Shinde's camp. But the top court refused to stay the order, saying that it first needs to hear from the Election Commission. Now, two other key issues were also discussed today in the court, where the first related was to the properties, offices and bank accounts of Shiv Sena. The court asked the Uddhav camp to seek other legal remedies in this matter as they were not mentioned in the Election Commission's order. Secondly, the court permitted the Thackerays to keep using the name Shiv Sena UBT and the flaming torch symbol for the upcoming by-polls. So there are some positives for both the sides. For the Shinde camp, there is a no-stay order, which means that the Election Commission's order continues to apply. And for the Uddhav camp then, there is no threat of disqualification. The Shinde camp has given an undertaking in court that they will not seek to disqualify Uddhav's lawmakers. But the question then is, where does this battle go next? And before I put that question across to my panelists, let's take a listen to the political reactions coming in.
शिव सेना जिन्होंने फैदाई की उन लोगों के हासिल से पूरी तरह से निकलना, उसका सिम्बल निकलना और तीसरे लोगों को देना, ऐसा कभी हुआ नहीं था। आज यहाँ हुआ है, क्योंकि आज देश की राजनीति की हुकूमत जिनके हाथ में है, उन्हें जिस तरह की स्थिति चाहिए, इस तरह का डिसीजन, चाहे इलेक्शन कमीशन हो, चाहे दूसरी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हो, ये सभी से हम लोग देखते हैं। और ये संकट एक बहुत बड़ा हमला राजनीतिक दलों के ऊपर आया है।
Right now they said we will not surpass or we will not grant a stay to the decision of the Election Commission. But if the other party, which has been recognized by the Election Commission now, if they initiate any action of disqualification against the members who have not joined with them, that should not be done for another 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, hearing will be done, and then we will see what should be done. So they have not given a stay, but at the same time they have not given relief also to them, asking them that 2 weeks time is given to us. A small relief is given to us that no action should be taken as far as disqualification and other things are concerned.
And to discuss this further, I'm joined by a panel of esteemed guests. A very good evening to all of you. Chandra Shekhar Jha, who is a leader from the Uddhav Sena. Also joined by Devendra Pai, political analyst, and also Aditya Pratap, who is an advocate. Appreciate you joining us here at Mirror Now this evening and taking out time to discuss Sena versus Sena war. My first question would go across to Aditya Pratap, who is an advocate. Mr. Pratap, how do you look at today's court's order, where they have decided firstly that the Election Commission's order still holds true, so there is no stay on that as sought by the Uddhav camp? But they have also gone ahead and reminded the Shinde camp about not letting any disqualification take place. How do you see this entire order that has come from the court as yet, although the final judgment is still awaited as a matter and the proceedings are still going on in the courts?
Well, the final proceedings are ultimately a matter of, they will be decided by the court in accordance with the law, because there are several issues to be gone into. First and foremost is the issue of party democracy. That a political party is not tied to any particular leader. For example, we had the symbol issue a few days back, wherein it was held because it was the Eknath Shinde camp got the symbol. And of course, even when the Shiv Sena, when the Uddhav Thackeray camp got the Mashal symbol, that Mashal symbol earlier belonged to the Samta party. So of course, the trite law is that an election symbol is not like a trademark. The Election Commission assigns the symbol. And of course, the first and foremost thing is that when I view this entire issue as a whole, the whole thing comes up of party democracy. On one hand, you have they say the Uddhav Thackeray camp, the party does not revolve around a single leader. But then in the Eknath Shinde camp also, you had a meeting which was conducted, and then most of the powers again vested in Eknath Shinde. So the election commission has gone on very, I would say, very fundamental criteria, that mass following, popular following. Another thing which could weigh in favor of the Eknath Shinde camp is that when the 2019 general elections happened, the pre-poll alliance was with the BJP. So they can always say that the public voted for us on the basis that we would stay with BJP and not that we would break ties. So I believe that as far as the election commission decision is concerned, they may have the upper hand, because if we see the Anti-Defection Act has a threshold of 1/3. If it's more than 1/3, then it means that you do not have control of your own party. So ultimately, the EC decision will be examined on merits, but I feel ultimately the EC has gone on the issue of who commands the, more than like the majority of the vote share, like 75%, which came up.
Absolutely, Mr. Pratap. And let me take that question across to my other guest over here, Devendra Pai. Mr. Pai, how do you look at today's court's order, where on one hand they have definitely maintained that there can be no disqualification that may take place, but it's also a test for the Uddhav camp now to be able to retain the confidence of its cadre and keep its flock together?
Well, I see this as a moral victory for Eknath Shinde, because, ultimately Eknath Shinde had nothing to lose. It was Uddhav Thackeray who had so much to lose. The party symbol, and I think Balasaheb's legacy was lost when he did an alliance with the Indian National Congress. So I think whatever happened today in the court, I would say it is Eknath Shinde 1, Uddhav Thackeray 0.
Well, I feel it's too early to jump to that conclusion, Mr. Pai. I think we must hold our horses over there. But Chandra Shekhar Jha, you were also over here listening to what the panelists have to say. What is your interpretation of today's court's order? Because it appears there is a glimmer of hope that perhaps the top court has shown to the Uddhav camp that all is not lost yet, although the Election Commission's order has not been stayed either.
See, basically the Honorable Supreme Court, what they have done, they have passed an order of status quo here to be maintained between both the sides. And what is the belief is that the Constitution of India does not allow ECI to decide on the issue of a split. Basically, in the circumstances when the fraction is there and the party is owned by someone and it has to be transferred to other faction, which cannot be decided so easily without getting into the merits of the facts and circumstances of the case. Now, the thing is that if you see Rule 15 of the symbols order, basically it says that the facts and circumstances have to be decided on merits before getting into the judgment that the Shiv Sena belongs to Eknath Shinde faction. That has not been done. The facts and circumstances here is that all the cadres of the Shiv Sena belonging to Uddhav Saheb Thackeray is with them, and you are deciding on the legislative strength, which is wrong, because there is no such precedent that the legislative is
We will try to reconnect with Mr. Jha over there. We're facing an audio issue. But let me continue with this discussion, because as far as the corpus that lies in the bank accounts of Shiv Sena is concerned, or for that matter, the taking over of party offices, all that are tricky areas on which, of course, the Uddhav camp has sought a clarity from the top court, and that hasn't really come as yet. They're waiting for the entire plea to be heard first. But Mr. Pratap, how do you look at it? Do you think that the Uddhav camp still stands a chance of retaining that corpus that may lie in the name of a Shiv Sena in the respective bank accounts?
Yes, ultimately, of course. See, because ultimately, logically, that amount constitutes the party fund. And from that amount, no amount can be diverted into any leader's personal account. Otherwise, it will become a case of breach of trust. So logically, if the Shiv Sena has held to be the Eknath Shinde faction, then logically even the accounts, the money lying in the accounts will have to be controlled by the Eknath Shinde faction, because ultimately it is party money. And this is, where I see to drive. Okay, I understand there are a lot of questions. There were a lot of allegations of horse trading surrounding this and so on. But ultimately, let's not forget that we had the JMM bribery case of the 1994, wherein the anti-defection law came about. Because ultimately it's about who casts what vote in the house under the constitution. An MLA or an MP cannot be held to account for what vote he casts. He has full freedom to vote in the house. He can be disqualified later, but his vote will stand. So likewise, ultimately, if a bulk of the party, a bulk of the elected representatives of the party have indeed changed hands, then then we see a fundamental shift in the party. And of course, as far as the party fund is concerned, because on what basis? Because let's suppose Eknath Shinde faction says we will not initiate any anti-defection proceedings or disqualification proceedings against Uddhav Thackeray, fine. But then logically, because ultimately the bank account is open in the name of the party, the bank will have to, who will be the check signing signatory? It's like ultimately the party fund will have to be managed logically by the Eknath Shinde faction. In fact, it should be the Uddhav Thackeray faction legally who should relinquish control of the party coffers, because the party fund belongs to the party and you cannot use it as your diverted to any personal account.
Absolutely. And Mr. Jha, how do you look at it? Because whether it's the Shiv Sena Bhavan or the party offices, and now, of course, the bank account, these are the crucial areas on which, of course, Uddhav Thackeray would not want to let go of an entire control as yet. So how is Uddhav camp going to go forward with right now? Because as of now, it appears that it is advantage Shinde camp.
See, it will not constitute as an advantage to the Shinde camp. If you see the election commission, which they have decided that we were allowed to use Shiv Sena, Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray as a party, as well as symbol has been allotted to us. So in any manner, this Shiv Sena is continuing with it. So the question of going off accounts or Sena Bhavan is out of this question. And further, what we are seeing also that at the end of the day, we will get relief from the Honorable Supreme Court, which we also depend upon.
Absolutely. All eyes are on the top court. But in the meanwhile, Mr. Devendra Pai, what has been the strategy ahead for the Shinde camp? Because you have clearly taken over the party office in the parliament and even in the other parts of Maharashtra. But when it comes to the Samna newspaper, or for that matter, the Sena Bhavan, these are the areas where the authority and the right still lies divided between the Shinde camp and also the Uddhav camp until the top court comes up with a straightforward order to draw the demarcation. Until then, what is going to be the way forward for the Shinde camp? Because you held your national executive yesterday. You have chosen Eknath Shinde as your party leader. What lies ahead?
I think the Eknath Shinde camp will work with caution. They won't jump into claiming the party funds. They won't jump into claiming the party offices. Because, when the election commission has already decided that they are the real Shiv Sena, and as my honored panelist already mentioned, that if they are the real Shiv Sena, the funds and the party offices legally belong to them. I mean, I don't really understand, what is the cost which Uddhav Thackeray has paid for, coming to power, which really didn't deserve to him. He didn't honor the pre-poor alliance, and then he goes to the court right now. He fought in the elections in the name of Prime Minister Modi and Chief Minister Fadnavis, but the karma had to actually hit back. And,
In fact,
at present, the Shiv Sena, we should be mindful of the fact that the Shiv Sena was not just built on Balasaheb's thoughts and vision, but also by the hard work of the Shiv Sainiks. The legacy of the party offices, the party funds belong to the Sainiks and not a family or an individual. Uddhav Thackeray, who has lost face, will further lose face if he fights for the party funds or the party office. They belong to the Shiv Sena and not to an individual or a family. He will lose whatever little support perhaps he has on the ground if he continues claiming the party office and the party funds.
And a point on Sena Bhavan.
Mr. Pratap, you want to make a point over there? Yes, please go ahead with it.
Yeah. Well, we talk about Sena Bhavan. Now, Sena Bhavan is an immovable property. It's a structure. And under the Registration Act, interest in a property can only pass by means of a registered instrument. Now, clearly, the Shiv Sena has been held to be the Eknath Shinde camp. So likewise, that body will remain in ownership and title of the Sena Bhavan. Now, if Shiv Sena UBT is recognized as a separate entity independent of the main Shiv Sena, but in that case, where is the registered instrument? Transferring, there'll have to be a registered instrument with stamp duty, transferring the Sena Bhavan from Shiv Sena, the main Shiv Sena, to Shiv Sena Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray. So when I see the provisions of the Registration Act and the Transfer of Property Act, as well as the Stamp Act, legally, the Eknath Shinde camp can assert its control to Sena Bhavan. Because till the time there's no registered payment of stamp duty and a registered contract, it cannot pass on to a new entity. It's impossible in law.
Well, that's a fair point that you're making, Mr. Pratap, over there. And that looks like that legal trouble will only increase and brew for the Uddhav camp. But when you talk about keeping all these technicalities aside, about the legal issues, the top court, the registration outfit to try and assume charge at the Sena Bhavan, what about the emotional capital that Uddhav Thackeray has enjoyed for such a long time? Will he be able to stand the test in people's court is a question that we are asking. And Mr. Jha, what do you think about it? Do you still feel that emotionally Uddhav Thackeray still manages to connect with the people in Maharashtra? Do you think that he will be able to stand the test of time and people?
See, this party was built by Balasaheb by fighting with the non-constitutional people of India. So we have a habit to fight in each and every moment. And we think we will stand the mandate of the people, and we will succeed in the near future also. And they will get a fitting reply from us also.
Well, Mr. Jha, it is also the promise that Uddhav Thackeray had initially made, like Mr. Pai was also mentioning, that he was initially in an alliance with the BJP. He let go of the mandate that the people entrusted in him. So now try to adhere to the Thackeray legacy is a little misplaced, I would say that. But a lot lies ahead with what the top court has to say. Mr. Devendra Pai, if... Yes, Mr. Jha, please go ahead with the point that you were making over there.
Yeah. So everyone is aware that, Balasaheb Thackeray was fond of Mr. Narendra Modi. And the way Uddhav Thackeray has been speaking about Narendra Modi in the last few years, I'm pretty sure the original supporters of Shiv Sena, who's also supported Narendra Modi, will be really turned off by whatever has been happening. Secondly, Shiv Sena is a party which fights on the ground. It is not a party which fights in the courts and wins. The very fact that, it has ultimately sought refuge of the courts, even while forming the government in Maharashtra, and even right now as it has lost its party symbol, that shows for the fact that it has actually lost support on the ground. I mean, if it was Balasaheb Shiv Sena, there would have been a Mumbai Bandh today or tomorrow.
Not try to make it a shouting match over here, Mr. Jha and Mr. Pai. Let Mr. Pai complete his point, and then I will give you time, Mr. Jha, to make your point as well.
The point which I'm trying to make is the Shiv Sena has always relied on sheer ground strength and not technicalities and winning court battles. And that is how Shiv Sena has always been. I mean, if Balasaheb Thackeray would have been alive today, it would have been a Mumbai Bandh tomorrow because the Shiv Sena has lost its symbol. But what are we seeing on the ground? There is nothing happening on the ground. Life is going on as usual. So the Shiv Sena of Balasaheb Thackeray is not the Shiv Sena UBT. There is a vast difference. Shiv Sena UBT does not enjoy the same amount of support as the Shiv Sena of Balasaheb enjoyed. During Balasaheb's time, the population of Mumbai was over 40% Maharashtrians, or I think it was nearly 50%. Today, the population of
maybe the fire in the belly is missing, is what Mr. Pai is trying to say, that maybe the fire in the belly for the Sena UBT is missing, but the emotional capital that Balasaheb Thackeray has built over generation, which of course Uddhav Thackeray is also trying to stay claim to, and followed by Aditya Thackeray as well, that generation of the Thackerays, that really cannot be isolated when it comes to enjoying the confidence and the emotions of the people. But Mr. Jha, do you think that the people of Maharashtra still attach their reverence with Uddhav Thackeray after all that he went through?
Yes, surely it is, because if you see, when this faction got into tussle with us, we were on road. and eventually they had to seek protection from us. So we don't undermine ourselves. And second thing is that what Mr. Pai said, he particularly said that we had gone to the court tussle. No, it is not the truth. Eknath Shinde faction had gone to the court first, and then we subsequently fight it out in the court. And it is not an obligation, but we have been continuing in the court. It is the obligation by the Shinde faction.
I was talking about the formation of government of Maharashtra after Uddhav Thackeray became the chief minister.
In that respect also, if you see, the 3 days government which was between BJP and NCP, that was also not against Hindutva or not against legacy, would be also wrong, because we were doing our job in respect of which the BJP did to us. BJP naturally made defection with us for their seats and for their CM chairship and nothing else. So we had to follow our political arena, and we did that. So in that respect, eventually today also we will decide our legacy on the mandate, and the Eknath Shinde faction also should decide upon the mandate that they are legible to continue or we are legible to continue in this situation.
Well, that is what we are waiting for the court to decide. Appreciate all of you joining us here this evening.
I'm glad that Mr. Jha accepted.
Of course, Devendra Pai was making that point that Shiv Sena is essentially a cadre-driven party, and the real test would now lie in the People's Court. Appreciate you joining us here, Chandra Shekhar Jha, Devendra Pai, and also Aditya Pratap. Thank you for joining us here at Mirror Now.